Welcome to tonight's Ask the Expert. I'm Stephanie Ignafo, plant interventionist, lifestyle medicine coach, and food for life instructor with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and founder and co-founder of the nonprofit Plantspiration, where our mission is to educate, motivate, and inspire people around the world to improve their quality of life, learning how to do it with a community to support you through it. Welcome. We can start and are actually living it. And I want to just show people how sustainable, how easy, and I am most importantly, don't want them to just hear it from me.
That's right.
You know, I want them to hear it from each other and
other plant-based pros.
That's all I can think about. So running the nonprofit, you know, making it through a bunch of obstacles in that part, going from a complete crippled to cranking couch potato sedentary housewife to I want to change the world and teach everybody how to do this, because plants may not be for everyone, but everyone has a right to know. And as you know, 30 years work on this planet, and millions of, I say after every class, millions of people are eating themselves to death. We have a planet on fire and animals being slaughtered for no reason. And this is so important to us, Plantspiration, and why we're out here trying to, well, we are inspiring people.
Heck yeah.
And we're really excited for the Ask the Expert guests this month. I mean, your story isn't just a one and done. I mean, it's both of you, it's everything. It's how you even got into the plants, and it's relatable to so many people because people come to me all the time when they're sick, and I want to get to them before this kind of stuff happens. And your story nails kind of all of that. So without any further ado, I think these guys are sick of hearing me talk right now because they came for
Never.
Yeah. Everybody, welcome and thank you so much for attending tonight's Ask the Expert. I am really excited to have Dan and Sheanne, I don't want to botch it, Moskaluk?
Moskaluk. But close.
Gosh, I went through this the last time. At least I got half of it right. You guys, it's really amazing to have you here. I first saw you on Eating You Alive and I thought, look at this. She lost weight. She did it. This whole story is incredible.
Yeah, you got something in common, huh? Lost 100 pounds.
More.
Yeah.
So with that, welcome. Thank you guys. We'd love for you to share our story. I'm so thrilled that people are here and able to ask you questions.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Take it over. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're always happy to be here.
Yeah.
And we wish you guys lived closer. It would be fun to hang out, wouldn't it? It'd be great.
For sure.
It would be great.
We will get there soon. I'm telling you. We want to do a Bringing Healthy Back Plantspiration World Tour. We've got people all over the United States and Canada. So let's get around and cook in your kitchen, because what you guys make is incredible. Also known as Indian Rock Vegans. And maybe you can tell us how that all happened. So welcome, you guys.
Yeah. Thanks so much. So, well, Indian Rock Vegans. Indian Rock is just the little hamlet that we live in. And when years ago, you know, one of my coworkers said, "What? You don't have social media? Here, let me sign you up to Instagram. What do you want to be called?" And I was like, Indian Rock Vegan. It was vegan when it started. No S. We added the vegan later on.
Added a couple. Yeah, Indian Rock, Naramata. We're in the interior of British Columbia. Actually, we are at the northern tip of the Sonoma Desert. So we've got beautiful summers and fruits and vegetables
and rattlesnakes. The whole shebang.
But that's how we ended up becoming Indian Rock Vegans, because again, she kind of dragged me along as well too several years ago into this lifestyle.
So do you want us to just tell the story, Stephanie? Is it just?
I was gonna say, it's like let's take it from the beginning. You know, I heard you were searching for protein powders. You got into the plant. So how did you actually, how did this start?
Well, for anyone here who has not heard the story, I'll do the whole thing. So yeah, our son had joined a gym when he was about 15 or 16, and he wanted to be weightlifting and bodybuilding. And they told him there that if you were ever to put on muscle, you would need protein powder. So off to the health food store I went, and I'm looking at those giant tubs of protein powder and whey protein powder. And the sales clerk comes up to me. She goes, "Oh, who are you buying this for?" And I said, "Oh, my son." "How old?" 16. She leans in and she whispers, "You'd better do some research before you give that to your kids." And I thought, well, that's really strange. So I didn't buy it. I went home and I Googled whey protein powder, and by the best luck in the world, a YouTube video by Dr. John McDougall came up called The Perils of Dairy. And I watched it and I thought, who is this crazy quack? Because it was completely the opposite of everything that we've ever been taught about dairy products. And it was just so fascinating to me, though, that I watched it a couple more times, and I don't know what happened, but it ignited my curiosity so much that it just led me down the rabbit hole. And from that moment forward, I watched and read everything I could get my hands on regarding plant-based nutrition. And I kind of equate it to when our kids were little, Harry Potter was the thing, and we read Harry Potter. And I always remember that first book where they go shopping at this Diagon Alley or something, and it's this parallel universe where wizards live. And I thought, that's what this is. It's a parallel universe
that we're never told about.
that we're never told about. It's very secret and it's magical. So I really spent, that was the fall of 2010.
Yeah.
And I just read and read and read. And I was very lucky to be in the position where I could flush the family out of the house to school and work in the morning. And I would literally sit and read for 4 or 5 hours. And I started leaning into a plant-based lifestyle. And it got to the point where I was cooking 2 meals. I was cooking plants for myself, and I was cooking the standard American diet for my 2 teenagers and my husband, who was a police officer at the time, and shift work and all of those kind of things, and teenagers, which are difficult creatures at the best of times. And I think by that spring,
Christmas,
yeah.
and I got to the Kindle,
Yeah.
so you're really able to dive into it.
So I was downloading all the books from all of the gang, the Dean Ornish, the Caldwell Esselstyn, the T. Colin Campbell, Michael Greger, everybody. And finally, the quintessential moment for me was reading the China Study. And I kind of put that book down, and I thought, there's no way I can continue feeding my family in the manner that I have been. There it is, best book. And so it was actually April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2011. I decided that was it. I cleaned out the freezer, the fridge, the whole house, just got rid of everything. And the family was not happy. Yeah, gotta let the dog out. The family was not happy.
He's out. I'm out. Here we go again. No.
Yeah, the dog controls our life. So the family wasn't happy, but it was too bad, so sad. This is the way I am going to be feeding you. I was the primary cook and grocery shopper, so it was like, this is how we're eating. And of course, I could not control them outside the house. They were still free to eat what they wanted when I wasn't in control. And slowly but surely, and I also allowed them a cheat day at home initially, but I continued on plants. And
so we're 95%.
Yeah, you were 95%. And it was interesting because humans, I'm afraid, are slow learners. And it took them a few months to realize that after that cheat day on Sunday, Monday, they didn't feel so great. Yeah. And so they started just on their own eliminating all of those cheat things, animal products, processed food, all of those kind of things. And so eventually we were all on board and eating plants. And I have to say, though, that at that time, because I was luring the family along, I was using some vegan transition foods for sure. And so it was great. Now, I really did it for health. I was reading about all of the disease reversal and prevention. But
late 40s, worried
ourselves.
Yeah.
I did not realize that I would lose weight at such an accelerated rate. At the time, I was almost 300 pounds. And as I said, I did it for health. And that first month of fully committing, I lost 15 pounds without even trying. Like it just dropped off. I was not exercising. I was morbidly obese. I was so out of shape that I was not doing anything. And so it was just kind of, astounding that I was eating these mountains of food and losing weight. And I have to say that I have, struggled with my weight my entire life. And I had tried all of the Jenny Craig, the Nutrisystem, the Weight Watchers, Atkins, can you believe it?
Oh, yeah.
And all of those things. And granted, they might work while you're on them, but the minute you say, okay, I've reached my goal weight of X, and you go back to eating the standard American diet, it all came back and more. And also the classic, after each pregnancy, I gained weight. So it was the story as old as time, I'm afraid to say, for a lot of women. So I was pretty impressed and surprised by that.
Mhm.
And I just continued. And over the next 2 years, I went on to lose 133 pounds.
Wow.
And I never meant to lose that much. Like I never had a goal in mind. It was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I could lose 20. Maybe I could lose 40. Maybe I could lose 70. Oh my God, I just crossed the 100 mark. And then, oh my God, and then finally it just kind of stopped.
And you hadn't seen that weight since 1996 when I went overseas and I came back and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, I was back. I could, put my wedding dress on again. And, as I lost weight, once I felt that I'd lost enough weight that I could start exercising, I started hiking around here. We live in a very hilly area, so it's up and down hills.
6 mile walk.
Yeah, so I added in a 6 mile walk every morning, which was straight uphill and straight downhill. And that was all I really ever did. We did do a little bit of gym time, but then COVID stopped that. So it was principally walking on hills and
The yard work, property stuff.
yeah. And then I always think of the blue zones, and we live on a 7-acre property, and somebody mentioned our garden. So we have a lot of yard work. And so we kind of live the blue zone lifestyle where we're doing a lot of labor around the property.
What's interesting, Sean, sorry for,
No.
you went into this, I want everybody to hear this. You weren't thinking diet. So it wasn't this restrictive mentality.
Right.
You went into this just eating, and this is important for people to hear. They come in, to lose weight, and we carry on those habits, those diets. But you just said it really clear. I didn't come to lose weight. I did it for my health. So you just ate. It was never about cutting back for you.
No.
I think, as we hit our late 40s, as we always say, all these bad habits come home to roost.
Yeah.
And
And it was, I had been on these restrictive diets where you had to, points, or you had to weigh your food and all of these kind of things. And because I did it for health, I was free of any of that. I wasn't doing it I had really come to the conclusion that I would be obese for the rest of my life. And as you said earlier, food was my currency. And I always felt that, I was obese. I knew that my friends' kids made fun of me. I knew it made my children sad and embarrassed sometimes to take me to, school events, things like that. And so I guess, as an obese person, you have to be jolly or happy or do something
pleasing people.
You want to make yourself, you have to do something else to be accepted. And so food was my currency.
Yeah,
if somebody did a favor, I made them a cheesecake or cookies or something like that. I brought delicious food everywhere I went, and people loved it. And so therefore they loved me. And you may or may not agree. I'm sure you will. But now that I've lost a lot of weight, maybe I'm not as nice anymore. I don't know. I'm not so worried about pleasing people as much.
I think that's just age.
I know what that, but we understand what you mean. It makes perfectly good sense. And I'm sure the love of the food that you bring now and the
Oh,
passion.
it just
behind
does.
it
Yeah. And I think that's true. It's like, you know, obviously your taste buds certainly transition. For instance, I remember the first time trying to sell nutritional yeast as a substitute for Parmesan cheese for the family, you know, oh, sprinkle this on your spaghetti. It's going to be so good. And they all looked at me and went, wah. And now nutritional yeast, oh my God, it's the best thing on the world, right?
Yeah.
How did people live without it before? So certainly your taste buds do transition. You love things. And we often say too, it's like cauliflower. I used to think cauliflower was the most boring, bland thing in the world. And now it's so sweet. It's just amazing. So it's like any drug. If you can get off the processed food that is so high in sugar, fat, and oil that just causes that dopamine cascade in your brain, just like any other drug, food tastes different. I've never been a smoker. You have, but I think when people say when they stop smoking, suddenly food tastes good. And so it's very much like that. So we're just chugging along here.
Well, hang on a second. In those 2 years as well, too, that, you know, again, myself, at the time, I was about 35 pounds overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, all those tick boxes that middle-aged men we hear when we go visit the doctor. And in those 2 years on 95% plant-based in the home, I lost the weight, reversed the high blood pressure, reversed all of those conditions, and was the healthiest I'd been in decades. And again, it was, you know, it was the food. What we certainly, you adapt, like you say, your palate adapts to it, and then you start to realize really what tastes good. Fortunate, you know, Sean's an excellent baker and cook and stuff, so it was just rejigging that. And then again, too, as a couple, I think what's really interesting about this lifestyle change is prioritizing, you know, cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was, you know, so in that 2 years, it was a big transition for our family, particularly for me. You know, I got back down to, you know, wedding dress size, all of those kind of things. Dan was healthier than he'd been for a long time. We were headed towards retirement and empty nesters.
With such a weight loss too, is that when we, you know, we'd run into people that we hadn't seen in ages. We went to a wedding one time, and I had coworkers and good friends that were, you know, hadn't seen Sean for a while. And when we showed up at this wedding, her looking the way she did with that weight loss, they thought I had brought somebody new to the wedding. And a couple of guys were quite standoffish and hardly spoke to me until, you know, she took her sunglasses off, or she actually spoke. She said, "Oh my God."
Yeah, I think they thought you'd brought a date.
Yeah. They
Where's
thought
Sean?
Dan and Sean have split up. Who is this?
Mind blowing.
Yeah, it was.
Friends and women in tears when you run into people we hadn't seen in a while.
You'd run into somebody that I hadn't seen. It happened like 2 or 3 times, which it was quite shocking, is that, you know, a woman who had clearly obviously struggled with their weight themselves their whole life, and then they'd see me, and I think it's like the commercials, the before and after commercials. You always think, oh, is that real? Well, there I was, right? And I would have women just break down and cry, and because I think it gave them hope that this can happen, that, you know, because I know what it's like to be obese, and you just kind of give up and you think, that's never going to be me. That's never going to happen. And there I was, proof that it can happen. And I was in the flesh right in front of them. And so it was a really interesting transition. It was every time I'd go to town, it would be this wild adventure, because I could run into somebody who would just freak out, basically, you know, and it was so interesting. So, I mean, that's kind of over now, because people most, you know, see me now and kind of forgotten the past, maybe, I'm not sure. So we're chugging along, we're having a great time, we're thinking we're bulletproof, we're both feeling great,
Eating delicious food.
yeah, recaptured our youth, all of those kind of things. But I think what I always say is I feel like I thought it was just for me and my weight loss, and now I realize it was kind of the universe getting us ready for the fight of our life.
Yeah, yeah. We, as I said, that puts us to from this transition lifestyle change to the fall of 2013. Myself feeling the way I feel and looking great and feeling great until that beginning of November, where I started having abdominal pain one week and feverish and so on. And I was starting to think that week it's got to be either kidney stone or kidney infection, as we've got a lot of digestive tract issues in my family. And so I thought, I've got a kidney stone, I think, as I heard it was very, very painful. So I put it off all week. And then November 9th, which was a Saturday, after a day of chores and actually chopping firewood, came back in. I said, I got to go to the hospital. I'm buckled in pain. And so off we went to the emergency ward, thinking that I'm going to get tested and it'll be stones or an infection. Put me on a morphine drip as we sat there at the emergency ward. They did all sorts of scans. And then it's, again, as a police officer, I know everybody at the emergency ward, and the physician who saw me that day, I knew him quite well. And so we're, very familiar and, casual with one another. But it was when he came back, he had a bunch of papers in his hands and ushered us from the waiting room to just an examination room, and scan results in one hand, and no chairs or nothing or sit down. It was just a matter of the three of us standing around each other. And he said, yeah, Dan, I got the results. It's not a kidney stone or kidney infection. It's cancer. Your right kidney is one massive tumor, and the cancer has metastasized. So essentially he said, this is stage 4 cancer. So it was shocking to hear that, when you feel fantastic and you look fantastic. And he was quite perplexed as well too. And it's interesting, kidney cancer is asymptomatic until really, the kidney starts coughing out, which is exactly that, because like I said, the one kidney, the right side, was one massive tumor. We later found out that the tumor had metastasized out of the kidney into the vena cava, which is your truncal vein, was growing up towards my lungs and heart, and it had also spread to lymph nodes. And you always hear, when it metastasized to either other organs or into the lymph nodes, you've got lymph nodes all over your body. So it really, really threw us. And, as people that have gone through or know people who've gone through this diagnosis, those first couple of weeks is something else. It is just, you are now in another world, and trying to cope with everything. We, at the time, 2 young kids, teenagers. So that couple of weeks, you're sitting down with family and explaining to them what's going on. We were told as well that it's stage 4 kidney cancer essentially is considered as terminal. When we went and saw the specialist, when about a week, again, the urologist, he gave us a very dire prognosis, and he said, yeah, you've got months to 2 years maximum. You're going to get sick, and you're going to get really, really sick, and there's nothing effective for this. Chemo and radiation is not effective. He said, but the first order of the day was surgery. He said, we do know though that we do have to remove the kidney.
So it was, again,
you thinking, Sean? Yeah, what were you thinking? You've done all this research, this information comes in.
Yeah. So it is, you have the rug pulled out from under you, and you are so fragile. And so this happens to other people. It doesn't happen to you, especially when, like Dan says, we felt so great. So, you kind of wander around in a daze for a week or so. And then it was, I started thinking, well, I've been reading about this for 2 years now. Let's put it to the test. And I did change my focus into reading about cancer and nutrition. And what I have to say is that when I took that route, I found out that there is over 100 years of data showing that animal protein promotes cancer cell growth.
Mm.
And it's like, there were two things. I felt really pissed off, and I also felt empowered, because I thought, okay, we've already done this, thank God. So let's just really tidy it up, because as I said, you know, we had the kids at home, we were doing some vegan transition foods, all that kind of thing. So I took all the body of knowledge that I had been reading, and I came up with what I call is our program of nutritional excellence. And it was mean, lean, and clean.
And
it
green.
was, and green.
Yeah.
It was no salt, no oil, no broken grains. So whole grains only. Nuts and seeds, and tons of vegetables, particularly greens, like mountains of greens. Almost, it was kind of like Caldwell Esselstyn's protocol for heart recovery, is that, you know, greens with breakfast, greens as a snack for midday, lunch,
For lunch.
and
greens
then
for
an
dinner.
afternoon snack, and then dinner, and a bedtime snack of greens.
Yeah.
And so it was really clean. The only thing with, you know, and we even eliminated caffeine, like anything that, you know, it was just such a pristine diet.
Mhm.
The only thing that we really had was a bit of salt, just I don't know, we just always have never really completely eliminated salt, although I have to
We're not
say,
heavy salt.
when you're cooking at home, you use so little compared to processed food.
Oh,
So we did that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and it was funny going into the diagnosis. First of all, too, it was explained that cancer would have been growing for 15 to 20 years. And so that's what we're told with that. So, you know, of the people, oh, you know, you were eating this way and 2 years later, you're diagnosed with cancer. No, I went into this diagnosis extremely healthy. And that was the one thing that doctor after doctor, be it our family physician, the oncologist, the specialist, everybody remarked that, well, other than the terminal cancer, you're extremely healthy. So you're going to be an excellent candidate for the surgery. And so that was the first order of the day. And so November was the diagnosis. Christmas Eve, the four of us, we drove the 5 hours to Vancouver, and we had the specialist there, urologist specialist at Vancouver General Hospital, perform an extreme nephrectomy, which is the complete removal of the kidney. They were very concerned, as it's a very heavy surgery. They had a cardiologist on hand just in case things went sideways, and two urologists, and essentially opened me up from just below the rib cage in a kind of a chevron shape, and clamped everything off. They said, well, you know, we have to be cautious because you could bleed out. You might not survive this surgery, but you're extremely healthy, so you're a great candidate. They kept repeating that. And surgery went well. They were able to pull the tumor. They removed the kidney, cleaned out a few lymph nodes around the kidney, and then were able to, because they said we might even have to dissect the vena cava, which take a chunk of your main artery out, but they were able to pull the tumor out of the vena cava, which was again a small bonus. And there was 6 days, just brutal recovery, 6 days at the hospital. Again, I'm a federal employee, so I'm very, very fortunate, because when I was diagnosed, I was able to walk into work, advise my coworkers, and pull away from work. And I can't imagine, and we know that with healthcare systems around the world, like the US or Canada, a terminal illness or chronic illness can be financially crippling for people. So I just thank my lucky stars that I do what I do, and I'm a government worker, and I was able to just walk away from work and still be financially supported. So the one thing, it's odd because, again, we did what we did, we felt the way we did, and then this hits. And they did the surgery. They said, well, there's a few lymph nodes, there's about 3 lymph nodes that are still affected. One by your windpipe that we're very concerned about, because that could grow. And of course, if it could impede your windpipe, that's a very common thing to happen. You can't breathe. That's how you die. And then other lymph nodes in the lung area in the back. So they said, we're going to keep an eye on those guys and see what happens. And the one thing in the hospital that was really, really shocking is those old hospital TVs that are hung from the ceiling. TV was off at one point, and it's a massive screen. It's just above your bed. And I never forget one time I kind of looked up and I saw myself in this black screen, this perfect reflection of me laying on this hospital bed, intravenous in my neck, in my arm, epidural, catheter, and just feeling just horrific. And I thought, wow, this is just so surreal. And 53 staples across my abdomen. They cut through all the muscles, and that's where I was left. Recovered from hospital, able to get released. And then, even to get home was a brutal thing. And so you get home and you tuck me into bed.
Yeah.
And I was essentially bedridden. I was bedridden.
We had to fly home. We drove down, and then our son drove the car back, and then we flew home because there's no way he couldn't have been in a car for 5 hours. No way.
No.
And it was just so surreal.
Yeah.
It was so, it's
And then they had explained as well too. They said, well, the chemo radiation's not effective. The only thing that we might be able to do with a medical intervention is possibly get you onto a phase 1 trial study. At the time, immunotherapy drugs were they hadn't hit the market yet, so they were still testing them. And they said, again, you're extremely healthy, and we'll let you recover from the surgery. And because you're extremely healthy, I have the good fortune to be able to watch and wait. So that's a term that sometimes people with cancer diagnosis, they will say, well, we don't have to do anything right away. We can watch and wait, see what the cancer does. They said, well, we'll let you recover and then possibly get you onto an immunotherapy trial study. And so those first couple of months, and again, it's interesting because they said, you're going to get sicker, you're going to feel bad, and it's going to be miserable. And this is the dead of winter here in at home, and bedridden for the first month or so, couldn't eat. Too many medications for the first couple of weeks. I dropped all the meds because I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I felt just didn't do well on the meds. So within a couple of weeks of that, I got off all the meds other than Tylenol, and kind of suffered through that. But day by day, when you think you're going to start feeling worse, you're feeling better, Yeah. And
because he couldn't eat, I tried everything, like absolutely everything. I just couldn't get him to eat. So I thought, what's nutritionally dense and super high in calories? Nuts. So I took raw nuts and I just gently toasted them in the oven, and I kept bowls of those beside his bed, so he could graze on them, like a cashew, and then maybe a half an hour later a pecan. And I swear to God, that is what.
Well, yeah, that's all I was eating.
It was all you were eating,
eat.
And it was what he needed. And then juicing, which we don't do a lot of juicing, but it was really good at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To bathe his body in all this nutrients.
Yeah, because I lost a lot of muscle mass. I lost probably about 30 pounds. I went into she kind of stuffed me as well too before the surgery, but and to be bedridden, but again too, like I said, feeling better every day, just say, oh, hang on a second, I feel like I'm recovering finally. Then it was onto the treadmill. The treadmill was like, half a mile an hour beside the bed, and it was one foot in front of the other for about 20, 30, 40 seconds. And that's how it all started. And then down the stairs to sit in the living room. Then eventually down the driveway, up and down the driveway, back into the house. And so that put us to about 4 months of recovery. The physicians were amazed as to how my incision healed. And again, as to how I was healing. And then also during this time too, they're watching those 3 lymph nodes. Lymph nodes weren't growing. And then the other scans also showed there was no spread to other organs. There was no spread to bone or blood. And
which they said it would be naive to think that this will not spread and grow.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
No, it didn't. It wasn't. And this is even prior to getting on to the trial study, which by March, they said, okay, you're healed.
Well, there was one thing that I always thought was really interesting as well, is that when they take, after a surgery, they take the cancers out, they send it to pathology. They grow it in a petri dish to see what the doubling time is, all of that kind of stuff. And I remember that they called after they gotten those results back, and they said, I took the phone call, Dan was in bed. They said, we're really sorry to tell you, but this is an extremely aggressive form of cancer. And I remember hanging up the phone and thinking, that's it. We're done. That's it. And what we've come to realize now is that petri dish in the lab was a very hospitable environment for cancer. And we had made Dan's body a very inhospitable place for cancer.
Yeah.
And it's just all the plants, by eliminating all the animal protein, all of the processed foods, and just having a whole food plant-based diet. It was just making him resilient and up to the fight.
Well, you want to, again, there's never any guarantees with cancer. We know that much, but why wouldn't you stack the odds in your favor? And flashing back to that night in the emergency ward, that is when I was fully committed. That night, I said, this is it. I'm 100% plant-based from this moment forward, because I can't take any risks. And knowing what we knew, why would I? And why did I? Because I didn't want to die, and I wanted to do everything I could. That included changing completely what I was eating and eliminating anything that could have a negative effect and promote cancer growth. So that was the night that I fully committed. And it took me that diagnosis to do that.
And we often, we do have people reach out to us on a fairly frequent basis who have been diagnosed. And it's like, it's a shame that sometimes it's those rock bottom moments, the fear of dying is what promotes people to make this change. And, it would be so wonderful if people could realize that if they made this change now before something happens, you're so much better prepared if and when it does.
Yeah, because there's so much, again, we reflect back on that. And these people that we, assist and coach and whatnot, is that to go into this feeling the way you do in those first few weeks and months of a cancer diagnosis and say, okay, we're cleaning the kitchen out. We're really learning how to cook.
You're so fragile to do all of that on top of dealing with a new diagnosis. Do it before. So much easier.
Yeah.
Do it now.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you this really quick. Dan, when you say you weren't fully committed, what did that look like before? So what were the things that were holding you back from 100%?
Addiction.
Well, addiction to the food, or just my desire to keep eating what I like to eat.
What
just
were
keep,
those things?
like to eat it, be it,
burger
and fries, pizzas with meat, cheese, dairy, you name it. Just the typical stuff that I was still hanging on to, that essentially was kind of just that pleasure of eating that food.
And tradition, what you grew up eating. And, sadly, our society equates food with love. And I remember Dan's mom being kind of mad at me because I think she took it as a personal affront that what I was saying, that she had raised her boys wrong and had given them all this horrible food when we transitioned. And it took her a while to come on board. But they became plant-based too. So it was a wild ride.
Yeah, it was and it's only the recovery from diagnosis to recovery again, were 15-month period where they said 2 years you're going to be dead. So we got post-surgery recovered by March. They got me on to a protocol with immunotherapies at the Cancer Trial Study Clinic in Vancouver. And that was a protocol of 4 treatments every 3 weeks of the combination of the drugs. And that was to be followed by a maintenance protocol of the one weeks. Drug every 2 weeks, again, driving down to Vancouver. And that was supposed to be for the rest of my life. And as they said, or however long your body can take it. So obviously these drugs take their toll on your system. So we started the trial study. Again, they said, well, you're an amazing candidate for this. You're extremely healthy other than the terminal cancer. I kept hearing that. And again, no growth, no spread. And so we started on to the trial study, and we'd go down there for a few days.
And it was interesting too, because it was a phase 1 trial study, which is basically the very first
You're a
launch.
guinea pig.
Yeah, this is the first time they're giving it to humans. And the oncologist that was heading this study was also a professor at UBC, very highly esteemed oncologist. And I was, of course, wanted it noted that we were whole food plant-based. If this was an experiment, everything should be documented.
Yeah.
And he would roll his eyes and say, nobody cares, food doesn't matter, all of these kind of things. And every time we went, which was a lot, I was on him.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
But they just rolled their eyes.
they did.
It was never, we found out later when we were able to review my whole file, it was never mentioned in the study case file
No. And,
that we were plant-based.
and
They don't want to muddy the
they don't want to
waters.
muddy the waters. They want their drugs to work because their drugs work, not because the patient was eating at a pristine, proper human diet, because you can't make any money off of broccoli. So,
Wow,
Yeah.
I did not know that they held that and they didn't get that in. And thank you for being so persistent on that. Isn't it amazing? I've got a couple doctors who won't write down that my clients have reversed disease, and it's like,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. The eventually though, this case study nurse, just by dropping, because every once in a while I'd get the side effect packages. And one time I sent her back our Indian Rock Vegans info card, and we got an email from her a little while after. This is
About 3 months later.
and she
wasn't
said, you
it?
know what, after hearing you guys for the months and so on, that I finally looked into some of the stuff that was on your card, and was actually listening to you during these sessions. You were there, and I did it. And she also encouraged other coworkers. She encouraged a meal program at the cancer clinic as well.
Yeah,
So somebody
yeah.
was listening.
Yeah. So, I mean, things are changing. I think that the cancer agencies now are promoting a more plant-based lifestyle and are recommending people to stay away from processed meat and red meat and things like that.
So,
But
we
it's getting better.
digress. I saw a question up there was talking about the immunotherapy, how effective was that? So to the treatment, I only made it to the 3rd treatment because one of the side effects to get immunotherapy bumps up your immune system to the point where it's kind of like opening a tiger's cage, and they're not sure what that tiger is going to do. It's supposed to fight past the cancer blocks and the walls that the cancer hides behind and attack the cancer cells. But because you're amped up so much, your immune system's amped up so much, it can turn on healthy organs, can turn on itself. And I made it the first of the 3. I was into session 3 of the first protocol, the combination drugs, came home with from the hospital, and then ended up with a fever. And essentially it was, we went to the hospital for that. Anybody with cancer knows fever is a red flag. And they said the drugs are attacking your liver. And your liver was, my liver at the time was producing 25 times the normal enzyme levels, which at normal dismissals from the study was if your liver enzymes were markedly above 5%, and I was at 25%. It was a near fatal liver attack. And so I was immediately dismissed from that study at that point in time, which was May.
Because they don't want to kill their trial study patients.
No.
It's hard to get drugs to market.
So that was it for, and then of course I had to get onto a protocol to safeguard my liver. I was on prednisone intravenously, which is a horrific steroid, and which it had its side effects as well. But again, they were in awe as to how I recovered even from the liver attack. And all this while, more scans going on, no growth, no spread. And then by that fall, they started using the term remission, where the 3 remaining lymph nodes were starting to shrink. And they were amazed. They said 5% survival rate for stage 4 kidney cancer. And
no treatment at this point.
And no treatment.
No
I was off treatment. And it's interesting
no
because
drugs, no treatment, nothing.
even prior to the treatment, there was no spread and growth. So the question was, well, do you think the immunotherapy had an effect? Well, it's quite possible. We do know that the immunotherapies now, drugs have made it to market. They are seeing successes with them, but with all drugs, again, there are side effects. And we do know, though, that even with chemo and radiation, plant-based diets increases the efficacy of your treatment and also reduces side effects. So we'll never know whether it was solely the plant-based diet or the short, brief period on the immunotherapy drugs. But we do know that I'm still alive, and we're coming up to 9 years.
Right.
So by that December, one of my last scans, we went in for the results, and that was January, February. So about 15 months into the diagnosis, that we walked in, and it was interesting because every time we go to the oncologist, it was good news, and you walk out with like terminal cancer. But every time, and I feel great, I looked great. People at work, I'd pop in the office just to, the policy of checking in every once in a while. It's like, so it was just a little cancer,
A touch of the cancer.
But no, apparently it's terminal. Well, look at you. And people were just shocked. And so the last appointment we went in, or the appointment that became the last one, we went in there and they said, your cancer is radiologically undetectable. You're cancer-free. And we're closing your file. If you were to walk in today, we would know what to do with you. We would turn you around because this is where you're at now. So 15 months.
Wow.
Cancer-free.
And 15 months cancer-free, but you were diagnosed in November. So November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 6 months, and no medical intervention after that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So every day is a great day.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like I've got a second chance at life, but you really
Wow.
both of you. Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody had asked, I'm just going to jump in here so I don't,
Yeah.
Take two. Were greens morning, noon, and night in smoothies, or were you chewing them? And what kind of greens were you talking about eating?
Mostly it was big plates of greens because, we do have smoothies absolutely now. And I did juice for that small period of time after his surgery, but I do think that there's a huge lack of fiber in juicing. I think that, cooked and raw, but we know that the digestion process for greens starts with your jaws. You start to release enzymes that help the nitric oxide, everything. It's a whole process, right? And if you bypass that by having a smoothie, you're missing some of the critical mechanisms that happen. And because I was so motivated to make sure that Dan was at his peak health going into this surgery, I was making him chew them. Mm-hmm. So it was giant plates of greens.
And we like our ethnic food. So, but it's funny because it can be as plain and simple as a roasted yam with a bunch of greens, or a bunch of greens and beans, or just a bunch of greens, lightly flashed.
Yeah. So it was greens and was the primary, that was the big show.
Kale, spinach,
and then other vegetables.
A lot of kale and spinach.
A lot of kale and spinach.
Yeah. And cruciferous broccolis. Yeah.
Cauliflower. And it was just trying to get him, I just wanted him to be because they had said that this was such a risky surgery and that he could bleed out. I just wanted him to be as healthy as possible going into that surgery. So it was, it didn't matter if it tasted good. A lot of it tasted good, but this wasn't about food. This is fuel. This was a program to get ready for surgery. Yeah. And it was you just need to eat this. Yeah. And I don't care if you're full. I don't care if you're hungry. You're just eating this.
No. And then, into the whole 15, 16 months of the recovery. And then to this day, today, it's what we eat, it's how we eat. We love it. Again, too, as a couple, relearning to cook, the two of you together, I think is a fabulous thing. And learning together why do we eat this way and how are we going to prepare it, and making it, as I said earlier, making that a priority in your day, because we make so many other things a priority. We can do this, we can do that.
Stephanie, you had a great post about that a couple of days ago about, you can spend money on this, but you won't spend money on that. And it's true. It's there's no, without health, and I think until, we take it for granted until it's taken from you, you don't understand how valuable it is. Yeah. And also, like, when you're put into that medical system, I mean, I feel like, you know, we abdicate our health to the medical system. Oh, well, my doctor says to do this, to do that, whatever. And you just
This is what we're
blindly
told.
follow along and
Yeah.
you do what they say, you take these pills, you take this, whatever. But by following a plant-based diet, it was advocating for our own health. And I say this in plural because his cancer was just as much mine. I felt like it affected us both. It was our relationship, our life that was being put into jeopardy.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think by advocating for yourself and doing this as an adjunct treatment, you feel empowered that you are taking the reins in this as well. And maybe you're working in conjunction with a medical team, but you are a team player.
And a big part of it, because this is something you're doing 3 times a day or a couple of times a day, every day. And you're the one who's regardless, hopefully people get support from their physicians. That's growing more, but a lot of people get eye rolls or no, it doesn't make a difference. Eat whatever you want. But for you to say, no, I feel that, you know, I have enough knowledge that this is how I should be eating. This is how I'm going to eat. And these are the results I'm hopefully get.
And once you're in the medical system, for whatever reason, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, whatever, you're turning your life over. Because I mean, here we were driving every 2 or 3 weeks to Vancouver, because I mean, initially there were so many pre-tests and all of that kind of stuff, and every time it had to be in Vancouver because it was a trial study. It had to be the same equipment, the same whatever. And so, you know, you're giving up your life. We're driving for five hours down there. We're staying a few nights in a hotel, then coming home. So you do hand your life over to the medical system when you're not healthy. So I think there's just so much motivation to be healthy.
Yeah.
I so much agree. I have so many questions coming in and I want to make sure they're answered. This is a great one.
Sure.
To pick up the knowledge and educating yourself on nutrition and being your own advocate. Were you eating fruits while trying to heal, or were you avoiding due to the sugar? Could you touch on that?
Not avoiding at all. Lots of fruit and everything.
You know,
eat the rainbow.
You know, processed sugar is processed sugar, but a fruit is sugar, natural sugar that comes in this beautiful package that's full of fiber and a million other nutrients. You know, we think of oranges as being vitamin C, but there's 5,000 other nutrients in an orange. So no, we never.
I think when you hear about cancer and sugar, again, that's boiling things down or just glossing things over as to processed foods and processed sugar and refined sugar.
It's like people who say avoid carbs. Well, define a carb to me, because most people really don't. I remember one guy saying, oh yeah, I'm avoiding carbs. I'm just eating broccoli. And I'm like, broccoli is a carb, you know?
Such misinformation. There's so many people spreading the misinformation.
Yes.
So like, let's hear it straight from people who have been living it. You've been educating yourself on this. You're helping change more people's lives and save lives. So I just want to make sure I don't gloss over this. Somebody asked about, did they tighten up how did they specifically tighten up the already plant-based diet, and that you weren't 100%, and I had mentioned that you were 95%, Dan, if I'm correct. So again, what did you tighten up in that moment? You eliminated the processed, you said, you eliminated the cheat meals, salt, oil, processed sugars, foods, and ate your plants off, basically morning, noon, and night, increasing your greens and chewing them.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and you know, I think it was almost easier to be whole food plant-based back then than it is now, because vegan food has exploded onto the scene, and there's you can have anything vegan now. Like there's no deprivation whatsoever. But I think it's important to say that, you know, because we identify as whole food plant-based vegans, which is a mouthful, but vegan is really the ethical of eliminating all animals from your diet. But that still leaves things like potato chips and Oreo cookies and vegan ice cream. And I mean, there's just millions of things. And while those are better for the planet and for the animals, for sure, they do not, trying to study, they do not increase your optimal health. And so, sure, those things are fun to have treats once in a while. We're all human, and we are always vegan, and we strive to be whole food, plant-based. And then, once in a while you have a vegan such and such, right? So, it seems complicated because I even hear some of the doctors say vegan, like they say, oh yeah, eat vegan. I'm like, whoa, that's not really correct.
Yeah.
Because vegan is not whole food, plant-based. So yeah.
It really changed since we've gone, you started a couple years before me, but I say to people, we didn't have those obstacles. Vegan meant greens, grains, beans, fruits and vegetables right at the get-go for us.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. It was like another training wheel step that we didn't have to go over.
That was just the marketing and everybody, oh, vegan sells. We're going to make money on vegan meat.
I'm seeing sick vegans. I'm getting type 2
People
diabetes and
getting sick
So
or staying sick.
Yeah. And it's easy to gain weight. Yeah, it's easy to gain weight eating all that stuff too, it's like sometimes we'll dabble in the vegan. You go to Vancouver, there's so many vegan restaurants, and so you're like, oh, let's have this and that and the other thing, and you come home and you get on the scale and you're like, that's it, back to broccoli, right? Because
everything is a lot of oil,
salt and sugar. And so those are the things we're really trying to avoid, as well as animal protein. So so I hope that answered that question.
I think it did. I want to ask you guys, I would like to ask people if they want to ask the question. I mean,
do please.
Cool part is talking to you. I want them to talk to you.
Okay, I have a question.
Not
sure.
John.
Go, John, go.
Did you ever go back and get a protein powder for your son?
No.
Never
No,
did
and
it.
not even plant-based protein. He didn't need it. He diet alone.
And he went on to get really big. Like, he did the bodybuilding and the weightlifting, and he got super muscular. Nice. And our kids are plant-based. Maybe our daughter's a little bit more, we call her a dirty vegan, but they're vegan, and my son's more plant-based. And he is a welder in northern British Columbia, not a vegan atmosphere or a whole food plant-based atmosphere. And he's, 6'2", big guy. And so these welders in these camps will come up to him and go, oh, I hear you're a vegan. And he'll look down at them and go, yeah. And that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah, we got a question.
It really, it's just so inspiring. I'm grateful my kids as well. And they were teenagers at the same time. So I want everybody to realize it's never too late. You'd be surprised the impact. They feel it too. He felt it, I'm sure. I just noticed Annette, was that you?
I think it was Aditi had a question.
You had a question?
Oh, yes. So after having the flu, I'm trying to get back into working out. So that's it. This is essentially incorporating martial arts training, walking, and weight training. And what I'm finding and trying to incorporate all of this is I'm having some issues with my knees, and was wondering if you'd recommend anything specific for joint related issues.
Not specifically like a supplement or anything like that. We don't really take anything other than the basics, B12, D.
Hydrate.
Hydrate. I think drinking a ton of water is really great for the joints, for sure. Maybe some turmeric is always a great thing, with black pepper always. Stephanie, maybe you have some suggestions there. And also, I don't know if your goal is to lose weight, and if maybe you have excess body weight. I used to have sore knees all the time. And I think that was one of the greatest reliefs of losing weight, was that my knees didn't hurt anymore. And so be gentle with yourself until you, maybe, I don't know if weight loss is part of your regimen, but when you get down there, they'll hurt less.
Right. I feel like I'm at the point where I'm kind of getting to the end of where I want to be in terms of my weight loss. And I know that Stephanie and I have discussed this on multiple calls. So I'm trying to think about what I'm already doing and what I can amplify. So I think the hydration, the turmeric, the black pepper, I think the greens will even help me feel up in between. So this is all great.
I love this. We have another great question asking, I missed something about the protein powder. What is wrong with clean vegan protein powder? This is hard for me not to answer, but I want you
Go
to.
ahead, Stephanie, you go ahead. Well, I mean, how about we answer together? I'll give my version, you give your version. Well,
Absolutely.
first off, I think excess protein, no matter what type it is probably not a good idea. Generally speaking, most vegetables have between an 8 and 10, maybe 11% protein. And I think that is optimal for human health, and that protein is highly overrated. We never even give protein a consideration. It is not something that I think about at all. I know that for seniors, they have a harder time absorbing protein, and so that you sometimes have to think maybe adding some more tofu or nuts and stuff like that. But really,
Unless
if
you're a
you're
high performance athlete.
yeah, or if you're a high performance athlete, maybe you have to give it some concerns, but even that is not a whole lot. So I think if you're eating enough calories, you're getting enough protein. Is that what you would say?
I was exactly going to say, when you learn how to get this down the right way and you're getting that 3 to 5 pounds, those calories in that we should be consuming, we are not deficient in protein. We don't need extra protein powders, plant-based or not. That still increases inflammation in the body. We can overdo it, whether it's plant protein or animal protein.
Isn't it harder on the kidneys?
Harder
too?
on the kidneys.
It is.
We don't
Mhm.
need that. And we are obsessed in America with protein. We don't have a protein deficiency problem. We've got a fiber deficiency
And
problem.
No.
And
And
yeah,
it just, yeah, an interesting side story. We have a friend who is Sonia Looney, and she is a
Long distance, endurance mountain bike rider,
yeah,
racer.
and she does like these crazy races that go on for days, and you sleep and then you get up and you do a million more miles through crazy, like,
Terrain, yeah.
Nepal or whatever, crazy things like that. And we actually put on a screening of the Game Changers, and we had a panel of plant-based athletes afterwards asking questions. And that was like, well, how do you get enough protein when you're out in a tent in the middle of nowhere? And she says, I have a peanut butter sandwich. And that was it. And she's like a world champion. And so people were like, quite stunned at that she could achieve this kind of performance by eating a peanut butter sandwich. And so
we need it.
it's not a concern whatsoever. And if protein alone were causing us to gain muscle, then most people should look like bodybuilders, and they don't.
I agree.
Putting on muscle is because you've done resistant training, and that there she goes. There she
she's
goes.
got a dumbbell at her feet.
You want muscles, you gotta have the dumbbells. I do 100 to 120 miles a week on my bike. I never once think of extra protein.
No.
And that was from I was facing double knee replacements. I was crippled.
Wow.
It was like, I'm done. I made jokes about a walker. Diverticulitis, IBS, pancreatitis, migraines, fibrocystic breast disease, autoimmune, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. Nobody said, hey, what are you eating?
Yeah.
No, nobody asked that. Yeah.
Lori, you have a question. But they sure ask now, once you start eating fruits and vegetables, then everybody starts freaking out.
What are you doing?
Yeah, Lori, it's like, come on.
I'm gonna try and I gotta move because my dog won't shut up.
Oh, those dogs. They're so
Oh my
difficult.
gosh.
We had to deal with ours too.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, I'm wondering the difference between your diet now in everyday healthy life and the 15 months that you were trying to push the cancer out. So do you still do plates of greens, or are you just like having salad for lunch and fruit and all that kind of stuff?
that's a really good question. And it's like, again, humans are a bit daft. And I think sometimes, why didn't we just continue that always? And we do have a pretty darn good diet. Generally speaking, I don't eat breakfast. I'm not a breakfast person. So then we'll have, usually like right now, we have a really green smoothie, like it's mostly kale and collard greens with just enough fruit to make it palatable. And then for dinner, we'll have an array of vegetables like, roasted beets or zucchini on the barbecue. Try and add in a grain now and again, and some beans, which we're better at in the winter time.
Right.
But right now it's principally vegetables.
Right now it's zucchini time.
Yeah,
Zucchini
all
time for
zucchini
sure.
Spiralized
all the
zucchini,
time.
raw zucchini, chunks of zucchini, barbecued zucchini.
Right. So when you're in the crunch, then you're upping everything, and then everything is back to normal now, and you're just eating normal.
Yeah, our normal is definitely different than before cancer, so I mean, and that's the thing too, like, I understand it's a difficult transition. And I remember at the beginning thinking, oh God, I just fed, I fed them breakfast. Oh my God, what am I going to get them for lunch? And oh, what's dinner? Every meal seems so stressful. And now it just happens naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and there's two of us cooking too.
yeah.
So
And there's two of us,
way.
Dan's retired now, so that's great. But I mean, I kind of just open the fridge and I see what veggies are in there, or what I've picked out of the garden that day. And then I'll create something out of that.
Big on bowls. We love our bowls, and they can be, again, ethnic,
yeah, a lot of bowls.
A lot of bowls. We love our quinoa. Quinoa is such a fabulous, high nutritious item that could make the base of that
and
bowl.
Dan does massive beans. Like he'll do like a bean day with the Instapot and do like a 1,000 pounds of chickpeas and then freeze them on cookie sheets and then bag them so you can just take out as what you need. And so I would say principally it's like, a
lot of oats.
Yeah, not so much right now.
Not
We're
in the summer,
winter. Yeah. So, I mean, we are seasonal. We're in Canada. Well, we get a cold winter. So I think you have more of those kind of things, oatmeal and all of that kind of stuff in the winter time. But, we have generally, it's just, it just revolves around what vegetables kind of on hand. We throw in some beans or a whole grain or some tofu or something like that. And just go from there. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also added their Instagram link. Must see. Your cooking is above and beyond, you guys. Really, it's amazing watching what you do. I come out with like a potato and my beans, and you guys have like, what?
Come on, we see the menu for your classes.
Yeah,
don't
underplay. Yeah,
That's
but
fast.
and we're honest too. Like we'll still. Yeah, we're on Facebook at Indian Rock Vegans as well.
Yeah, we've for face. Somebody was just asking about social media. So Facebook, essentially, we have the group page, Indian Rock Vegans, and that is solely the health aspect, where we hub all sorts of wonderful resources, including you guys all the time. Anytime you guys have something new up, we're resharing your stuff and all the resources. We're lucky here in Canada. And one of our go-to people too is Brenda Davis, who's one of Canada's most senior registered dietitian, and her co-writer, Vicento Molina. They've been at it, plant-based, 35 plus years, 70 plus years between the two of them. If you're looking for another quintessential encyclopedia, we got to say is their book, Becoming Vegan, because again, at the time, it was vegan meant whole food plant-based, because that term wasn't so knowledge. But if you look at Brenda Davis, Vicento Molina's Becoming Vegan, comprehensive edition, it will give you the opportunity for the deep dive in all aspects of plant-based nutrition. Brenda and Vicento's lectures online are just fantastic. Like everybody who's doing this, and it's all free time. Everybody's so giving of their time. It's at our fingertips.
A passion project for everybody.
It's a huge humanitarian project.
Yes.
We work hard for no money. Thank you. Was it Suzanne Summers who said, no, it's not. Anyways, We work hard for no money is the new lyrics. that I got.
That's a good one. I like that.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But it's true, there is
Yeah.
money in getting people healthy, but doing what you guys do, it's, if we can help save one life.
Yeah, we
and
feel
share-
rich, you know.
Right.
We
Somebody
feel-
asked, it's Brenda Davis.
Brenda.
Brenda Davis. There you go. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
'cause
when
I-
you've been through an experience like
Yeah.
this, and it's had such a profound impact on your life, that you feel obligated to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I always feel like it's like, I need to tell you this. You might not want to hear it, but I'm not on my watch. Will you get something because I didn't tell you?
Mhm.
I think maybe Stephanie, you have this experience as well, as I think about all of the people that I've lost in my life, in our lives over the years before we knew this,
Mhm.
from various diseases. And I think, wow, if
Wow.
I had known then what I know now, and I could have communicated to them and they would have listened, which who knows, would they still be with us?
Yeah.
So maybe those moments I have to go back and play, and it's torture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like, people sometimes don't want to hear it, but you
But
have
there-
you
I-
have to.
When you talk about working hard for no money, I think the reward, it's such an intrinsic reward to be helping individuals. I've been of service as a police officer to my communities. And I've always, do best by the victims and assist the people that are going through these traumatic incidents and so on. And now as an advocate for health, there's nothing quite like being, not even in your own city. We could be anywhere. And it seems that I'll have somebody tap me on the shoulder, tap us on the shoulder and say, hi, thank you so much. You changed our lives. You changed my life. You saved, and we've heard it too. You saved my life.
Yeah.
And you don't
just
even know it.
And you don't even know it. So I think, and then those individuals, we all become part of the ripple effect. Each and every one of us becomes that individual who can be an inspiration to others, because those are around you. Some will listen, some will see, lead by example, and it.
Yeah, I mean, look at you, Stephanie and John. I mean, like your whole street must be looking at you. You're like like your whole community is looking at you going, what happened to you? What did you do? I want that, right? It's the Harry met Sally moment.
Yeah.
I want what she's having.
The tellers at the bank thought I had cancer because I lost weight so fast.
Yeah.
And my neighbor, she has cancer, and she said, I just can't give up my sugar and my alcohol and my meat. And that's the hard part, is watching people, go through it. And I just want to tell them so badly, you don't really have to give up anything. I mean, you'll learn how to do it, but you're not going to learn it all in one day, and let me ask you one more thing. And if anybody else has a question, I just can't help but ask this. Did any of your doctors ask you about your diet and your lifestyle?
No, I think our family physician, again, Sean, I don't call her a control freak. She's a control enthusiast. So even prior to, the diagnosis, with the two kids, she would always come into the appointment armed with information and asking questions.
Yeah. And my own physician as well. We had our physician for 22 years. Sadly, he just retired, and now I'm in a retraining program with someone new. But once he saw the changes and the sustained changes, he was more open to information. And I have to say, we did have a few spats, he and I, about certain things that I would just say, no, you're wrong. And he would get quite annoyed. I mean, you have to remember, doctors are it's no fault of their own. They're not taught this in medical school, and they've put a fortune into their education. And so I think they're very protective of that. And to be told that they're wrong, they don't take it well.
No.
But I would show up at, we'd have these conversations and I would leave, and then I'd show up the next day with data and I'd say, you need to read this. Mm-hmm. And so by the time he retired, he had gone plant-based. So
that's great. That's awesome.
I think that, it's up to all of us to help educate our doctors, because they don't have the time. They're overrun. They don't have the time to sit down and watch and read the studies and things like that. So if you can have those discussions and you can show up with the actual data, then
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we are going in the right direction, because this fall, this girl over here is going to be teaching the medical students at Rutgers.
wow.
Second year medical students.
Yeah, PCRM has sended me in to teach the first and second year medical students.
Culinary.
That is amazing. Wow. I just kind of got little chills there. That's so cool.
You're heading in the right
Congratulations.
direction.
Thank you for credit.
Could not be a better person to send in. That's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm determined. We need
So
to
proud.
change the way that we eat, the way that we live, and the way that we look at food in its,
Mhm.
because of fine examples like yourself. And you know what I mean? Like, this is what I want the world to see and
Yeah.
learn how to eat. Do you guys, another question, do you guys mentor kidney cancer people? Do you mentor kidney cancer people? Of course. you do.
Yeah, we do.
A
We have,
lot.
we get a lot of,
Cancer in general.
cancer in general outreach work through social media. People will contact us. Can I, of course we'll talk. Of course we'll spend some time with you. We'll point people in the right direction to the resources. And as we always, and we have a lot of sit downs. One of the local restaurants in town is very quiet. The booths are quiet. We always go to that one place, and it's not a place that we frequent much for meals, and it's funny because they always see us come back in again and sitting with
different
different
people talking for hours. So
But yeah, no, we
Yeah.
do a lot.
Online and in person, we have people reaching out to us
Regularly. Yeah.
and mostly cancer, sometimes other things, but cancer's primarily.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's,
Somebody's got their hand up.
Yes,
got a question.
Robin, I want,
Rabina.
Rabina, I want to hear we want to hear your.
Yes, it's Robina. Hi, everyone. I have listened to you speak, Dan and Sheanne, for a couple of times and very impressed. And I'm a Food for Life instructor. And the question that I have is a woman that I know, and she's come to my classes sometimes, but she has cancer now. She has had it a few times. And, I think she tries to go somewhat plant-based, but then she hears about keto, and then she hears but now she just told me last week that her breast cancer has metastasized. So, I don't know what to tell her, except, and I don't know, I think, Dan, you had stage 4 maybe?
Stage 4 renal cell carcinoma, clear cell carcinoma.
Yeah, so she's gone further, it looks like, and so she's doing the traditional things. And I just wondered if you would suggest that, and I know you're not doctors and what have you, but just, is it ever too late to start? I say no, but
Never too late.
Have you ever heard of someone who has had metastatic cancer reverse it?
Well, me, yeah.
Yours
And-
was
and,
metastatic. Yours was metastatic.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
it
it
was
was.
metastasized. It was stage 4. The term for stage 4 is metastasized
It's either
to
gone
other
another organ
and
or
other
others.
organs, multiple areas. So for my case, it was the right kidney metastasized into the vena cava and had metastasized spread through my lymph nodes.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So, and you just went whole foods, plant-based, and that is how you attacked it. What, any other special tips or anything? And did you change your doctor, or did you stay with, how
Well,
to handle
we
that?
stay with our own family physician, but then of course you're sent off to the cancer agency, and then we ended up with an oncologist with the trial study. But I think, have you referred her to Christy Funk, who is a she's a physician who deals specifically, she has a Pink Lotus clinic, I think in Dallas. Anyway, all she does is breast cancer. And she's got a book called
The breast manual.
Breast Manual,
Yeah.
Owner's Manual of Breast, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, and she, when she started to write this book, she thought she knew everything about breasts, and she thought she knew everything about cancer. And so she started doing her own research for this book. And unbeknownst to her, came across the fact that really a whole food plant-based diet is the very best thing for breast cancer, and then went home and changed her own diet, because she was eating the standard American diet as a breast cancer specialist. And then when she wrote her book and did her research, she changed her entire family's diet, and now she really strongly promotes a whole food plant-based diet to all of her patients.
Yeah.
Obviously,
So-
she also does other interventions, but that is
Sure.
the starting point.
So
Mhm.
my question is this, I mean, I don't think I can tell her stop doing anything, but I think I would just continue to promote the whole food plant-based. She is taking a lot of chemo right now. And, and they basically said, quit your job, as I know you did, Dan, right? Just stop working and just kind of live your life. And that's what she's been told. And she's a most vibrant woman, just a most vibrant. And she's done so much herself in promoting, breast cancer awareness and what have you. But she hasn't settled on whole food plant-based. And I think I would love to point to you. I knew you had stage 4, but I guess I'm not so, I always think of there's stage 4 and then there's metastasizing, and so if you're saying it's one and the same, then, I would just try and promote that, encourage her to just take a stand.
Try it.
Take a
Try it.
stand.
It's not going to, and that's the thing, if a person is have dedicated themselves to the awareness aspect of it, but turn inwards, for yourself, for your own well-being. Why wouldn't you? Why should you? Well, look into it. Why wouldn't you is always the question.
I would really
Right.
direct her to Christy Funk.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
that would
and I
be
know who Christy Funk is, and I'm just, I feel like we're down to what can she do right away,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say that to her. I just, her husband is doing another type, you know what I mean? And so I think it's confusing.
Yes.
It's confusing, the whole thing. They both should be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to push it more. But what about, and what do you say? Just keep doing your chemo, but do these other things too? Or
Well, the thing is too, is that, as we said earlier in it, that one of the benefits of whole food plant-based diet, if you're on chemo, you have a reduction in side effects, and you also have an increase in efficacy of your treatment itself. So again, it's an added bonus as to, yes, and there you go. You've just showed up the
There you go.
PCRM cancer survivors guide.
yes. I teach the classes, so
Yeah, there you go.
it's really,
I think too,
but
if
haven't been faced with a real live,
Yeah.
situation as such, and so yeah.
Okay. And then we're always, again, too, you can always point in our direction. We're always just a phone call away or a text away. And then again, too, I think with a lot of people, we cannot say enough about our participation in the documentary film Eating You Alive, which had, some amazing health reversal stories that hit all the gamut.
Yeah. And we went on the holistic holiday at sea a couple of years ago.
You did that?
We did that.
Wonderful.
And so you're on a boat with 2,000 plant-based eaters, and while you feel like an anomaly in your own community that you've lost weight and survived cancer, on that boat, you're a dime a dozen. Because everybody's reversed their diabetes and their heart disease and their cancer and this and stuff like that. So when you get a bunch of plant eaters together, it's a common story. So I think that it's hard for people to realize in this society, because you're being bombarded constantly with misinformation and advertising and all of that kind of
Well,
thing.
it's purposeful that they create doubt. These other factions don't have to prove anything, although we are put to the test of show the data. All they have to do, and this is their modus operandi, is create doubt. All they have to do is create doubt, and they're off to the races, whatever they're promoting.
And then I'd have to say as well that, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. We've had people, that have reached out to us with cancer, and you give them a ton of information, and then you just don't hear from them again because they're just simply not interested and I won't do it. And and I think, Stephanie, you said this earlier, it's like, okay, it's like cigarettes. Nobody is walking around smoking a cigarette thinking, oh, this is so good for me, I'm doing this for my health and blah, blah, blah. But they are eating chicken breasts, and they are eating protein powder, and they are eating all of these
Dairy,
things,
thinking.
avoiding fruit, all of these kind of things, thinking that they are doing good by their body when they're not.
No.
So it's like the only thing you can do, I think, is give the proper and right information, and people will do with it what they want. And unfortunately, you know, like I always say, don't make me follow you home.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, it's like, that's what you feel like you need to do with some of these people, but you can't.
No.
You just,
Right. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And keep being
you're welcome.
example. I
Good
tell
luck.
Everybody,
Thank
everybody
you.
doing this is how we're getting this message out. Like
Yeah.
everybody doing this and getting this down. This is how we get this message out. Julie, thank you. What an inspirational presentation.
You guys rock.
You really
So do you
Wow.
guys. You need to move to Canada.
say no more, make room. I mean, literally, when I see your backyard. So can you tell us what you're growing in your beautiful garden before you go? And
Yeah. It was, you know, it's funny because life gets in the way of so much. And again, being on a rural property, you'd think that years ago we would have gotten the veggies going. We've always, you know, enjoyed our, you know, flowers and things and shrubs and things. But it was last year where we buckled down and we installed 13 raised beds, 10 by 4, 10 feet by 4 feet, 13 of them, 18 inches deep. And it's interesting, I'm a salvager. This was all salvaged wood that I had accumulated over the years. And we finally built them last year. And
Yeah, and we decided that, you know, we felt compelled to do veganic gardening, which I wanted to do kind of to prove a point that you do not need any animal products to grow plants. So we have no manure, no blood meal, no bone meal,
nothing.
no artificial fertilizers. It is all 100% plant
Plant-based.
compost.
Yeah.
And we fertilize with compost and with alfalfa and other plants. And it seems to be working because
So we got 80 tomato plants in,
Oh my God.
with a variety of beautiful old heritage East European heirloom tomatoes.
Oh, wow.
We have got
zucchinis. And
zucchinis.
beets
Oh,
and
and a good friend of ours, Bike on John, a friend of ours from
a plant-based fellow.
Carmel. He sent us a few things, but this year or last year during seeding time, he sent us seeds for Michigan collard trees. And this is this massive collard green that the leaf is just huge, and they can grow up to like 6 feet tall. So we've got a bunch of those that went in. We've got 3 types of kale. We've got beets. We've got carrots. We've got cilantro. We've got beautiful spinaches.
Peppers, and, you know,
peppers,
all the usual
potatoes.
suspects. Potatoes,
Yeah.
squash and watermelon and
just
raspberry.
they say this, but
This
if
is
you,
great.
you have to follow, you have to watch. It's breathtaking.
Yeah, I gotta
It's
see.
breathtaking.
Oh, well, thanks.
I don't get to see stuff like that. I'm in the middle of cornfields, you guys. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a real fun adventure. We've
Growing our own
really,
food,
really
yeah.
enjoyed it. It's fun to go down there every morning and see what's
The
happening.
greenhouses starts in January because
Yeah.
then you get the seed down, then the stuff goes potted out
Yeah.
of the greenhouse and then into the garden and
Wow.
potting it out and planting it.
And you know, well, we started into this for health. The trifecta soon became apparent for us when you learn about how animals actually arrive on your plate.
I was
That-
just gonna say, let them know what else you're doing, because there's a
Yeah.
whole aspect here that we like.
Well, we've been since 2017. We have been we're animal rights activists, and we've done everything. Participated in farm lockdowns across the country, and as far as Petaluma, California, I was there for the Berkeley Animal Rights Conference, and there was a massive action at a local duck farm there. We do street outreach through different forms,
Yeah.
our social media, and again, all combining so that
Because it's like when you realize how bad animals are for us when we consume them. And then when you find out what horrific lives they lead in factory farming and the horrible deaths, and all of that happens to make us really sick.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Also,
It's
animal
killing the planet.
agriculture is killing the planet. So it's like, holy crow. And
That's saying it politely.
and it's like, I think that trifecta keeps you on the straight and narrow as well. Like my mom, I'll throw my mom under the bus here. They went plant-based about 9 months after us, but they're whole food plant-based. They're not vegans. And so my mom will get invited out. They'll get invited out for Thanksgiving, and she'll have a slice of turkey once a year at Thanksgiving. And it just blows my mind, because she doesn't know what a turkey goes through in its life. And she's a huge animal lover. And if she realized what happened to turkeys, she would not see that as a commodity on a plate. She would see it as a being that suffered. So anyway,
So
it has
then-
become a big part of our life as well.
Huge. Well, again, too, as a police officer, it's ingrained into us to help victims, to recognize victimization, to intervene when there's a violent situation or there's somebody suffering, and to help them out. And so as I learned about this, and I was an activist even when I was still an active police officer, and two worlds colliding, because now there I was for 30 some odd years on one side of the protest line, and then now I was on the other side of the protest line. And just as my retirement, we had some very very public actions where friends of ours are finally gone to court for their walking into a barn and exposing the cruelty here in British Columbia at a local farm, and ended up being charged for break and enter and mischief. And they've been criminalized for trying to uncover criminal activity to animal cruelty.
Animal gag laws are like, they should be abolished. I mean, this is terrible. Not everybody may understand what you're saying is it's against the law for us to show videos of what's actually going on inside slaughterhouses. There's laws that protect that.
Yeah.
And what
I know.
They have to keep it secret. They have to keep it secret, because if people saw, and there again, it's like, if you actually saw the condition of the animals that people are eating, nobody would eat them.
No.
I mean, I often say, like hunters, if you shot a deer in the forest and you got up to that deer and it was covered with tumors and open oozing sores, would you take it home and butcher it? No, you go, yikes, I'm not eating that. And that's what all of the animals look like in factory farming, And so that is why they have to keep it well under wraps.
Wow.
But we digress.
So so the animal rights and advocating for activists as well is a big part. And, we have uncomfortable conversations with a lot of people.
powerful.
I did that for a long time too. So what the heck?
You're good at uncomfortable conversations. You had 33 years of training. So
Powerful.
Not tonight. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, this was so powerful that you put it that
That's
way
right.
too, Dan, that, here you're to serve and protect. What distinguishes
What species?
who deserves to be protected?
Yeah, right.
exactly, and it's,
guys are
cultural
awesome.
conditioning and doing this. I think it's important that we do go over this. It isn't just about the health with this, what we're doing here, and it's about the planet and the animals.
And optimal health is inconsequential if we don't have a planet to live on, right? So
Exactly.
it's really become our entire drive, really. And having the garden veganic was to prove a point as well. And you go into the garden store to try and get a product and you're like, no, I don't want anything with animal products in it. And they look at you like you're nuts.
Yeah.
So so it was just one more thing, right? It's your food, it's your cleaning products, it's your makeup, it's your garden, it's everything.
It's a lifestyle and
It's a
one.
life.
That's right.
It really is.
One
Yeah.
You guys are amazing. Dan, what are you
It's been
thinking?
great.
Like, you're just like, wow.
Well, every day. That's it. Exactly. Every day. Because, I'm thinking back as to like this November marks 9 years. I'll be 60. And I think a lot about, wow, this past decade, like, you know, we've had a very exciting and, you know, ups and downs through marriage of 33 years. But kids,
What are you
homes.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. no,
But
I-
again, this last decade with this lifestyle change, what it's meant for us, what it's done, what it's the opportunity it's created, the people we've come to know,
You guys.
the knowledge that we've gained from all this community and being part of an important community that just wants to make things better for everybody and everything. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
This is great.
You can, yeah, by changing what was on the tip of our fork, we've
Yeah.
changed our lives entirely.
Yeah.
That's right.
amen to that. Like, this is, you guys are such an inspiration. I'm grateful to have you here tonight. Everybody is so excited. Thank you for the excellent
Yes.
conversation. I mean, we need to have more of these because this is what the world needs to see and hear. Learning it, living it, and loving it. Thank you, Dan and Sean. Everybody's saying thank you, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I would just have to say that everyone in this group is so lucky to have Stephanie and John. I mean,
Sure.
the passion and the fact that you're so giving of yourselves. I can't think of better mentors and teachers to have stumbled
And
across
to do
that
it
are
and
willing
have
to
fun
do this.
doing it.
Yeah.
You do
Yeah.
have fun. It's a
We do,
second
yeah.
chance at life.
Heck yeah.
Somebody asked about before pictures. I know there's before pictures of you guys. I have before pictures on my website.
Yeah.
Use those inspirations across, you know, plant-based before and after, you know,
Yeah.
starting with this. Do you have any more documentaries coming out? Like, we need more movies.
Yeah, well, we did get involved. There's Disease Reversal and Hope. There's a film, but because of COVID, we weren't able to go down with the producers of Eating You Alive. So Disease
Wow.
Reversal Hope from those producers is out this August. And there's an accompanying book that we are able to participate in the book, of course.
me.
I was in a book called The Legends of Change,
Yeah, the rise of veganism.
The Rise of Veganism, particularly.
With Beck Frith,
Yeah.
Mrs. Jack Don Plants.
Yeah, so that was really great to be involved in that. Dan's been in a few documentaries now.
Yeah, yeah. On the medical side, animal testing, there was one that I was involved in. And I think on the activism front, there's a couple of things in the making as well, too. And yeah, it's incredible. But, and again, to get the opportunity to meet all these people, like the pioneers, the people that we walk in their footsteps, you know, getting to meet, you know,
Colin Campbell.
We spent evenings with Dr. Campbell and his family on that cruise. And, you know, to meet these historical figures, that's what they are.
Yeah.
You know,
Really
Neil
are.
Barnard with PCRM. It's like, these are change makers.
And, you know, meeting T. Colin Campbell, ultimately, he saved Dan's life, I think. You know, it was really the China study that was such a
And as I say,
Yeah.
too, it's because of her beautiful intelligence that I'm still alive today, and her being a controlled enthusiast.
I get right here, Sean. It's true though. And I wrote McDougall, I asked him to do a talk as well. And I said, you know, you guys lit the torch. You know, we're carrying it on. This is like the next, let's keep this going. They paved the way for us to be able to talk about it like this. So I'm just absolutely, we're going to do more of this because you guys are just such an,
You guys are awesome.
you guys are
well,
awesome.
you guys are too. It's a mutual admiration club. Let's start that. That'd be fun.
Literally. I just want to tell everybody, thank you so much for being here and most of all sharing your most incredible story. We are sending so much love to you guys and to everybody out there. I added in here the vegan calculator too for people to check out. It's interesting to see how many lives we can save just by not eating animals. So with that and your links, you guys, thank you all so much. I love you guys.
That was a lot of fun as always.
It was. You
Heck
guys are
yeah.
amazing. Have a wonderful evening and keep on eating your plants off, Indian Rock Vegans. Thank you for what you do.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Much love.